Okay, looks like it's done here. You know, there's always this issue where we have, oops, we have the end of something that's playing live, and and then it catches up on the broadcast. So I'm a little bit of like, you know, those people who can bring things in and out and do that whole screen capture thing. Well, that's not really me. I am just learning how to do this. And my son yesterday, when we did an interview, actually showed me right like live and everything how he was changing stuff up, and he was let's see if we can get, there it is, see if we can get his whole thing on there. This is his album called Meditations, and it is by Jean-Marc Ledoux. I don't know if you can see it there. I will pop it in here, but it is an all instrumental album, and as I tell people, I dare you to not encounter God while you listen to it. And so I'm just putting that out. That was one of my favorite pieces, called Figures. And he imagined, you know, ice skaters or dancers. But you know what? When I was talking to him about what I hear in his music, and what I think you guys can experience too, yeah, he's quite the multi-talented artist. What I was telling him was that the word figures, when I began to go to the Bible and look up the word figures, it actually means riddle. And it talks about God, and God interacting with us through riddles. So this piece you just heard called Figures, to me, he was seeing dancers and so forth and ice skaters, but I was hearing the riddle of prophecy, the riddle of an engagement with God where you don't really know what's coming next, but he's invited you into this kind of story for your life. Sorry, I have to use the old lady glasses today. Where he invites you into a story about your life and drops crumbs. Isn't that interesting? Drops. Doesn't God drop crumbs into our lives, not unlike our insider patriot resource person, asking us to do the investment of the time and energy and the resource to be able to consider what it is that he's saying to us. He drops something here and there and says, now, you go ask, you think, you invest in this process. It's like it says the glory of God is to conceal a matter. It's the glory of a king to search it out. And so I think this is a season of riddles and drops, isn't it? Like little things through the forest that we can't see. We don't exactly know where we're going yet, but we're reaching into this new paradigm. I have had just awareness more and more over the last couple of days, and I've been focusing on, you know, the idea of this total new paradigm that we're stepping into. Sometimes it takes my breath away. Sometimes I catch up to the reality of what's really happening around us, what's really unfolding, and it's astonishing. I think God has given us a grace to be inside of something where we have, you know, we have a community, don't we? We live among midwives bringing forth this new thing. We're bulbously pregnant as a remnant people, bringing this new life that's going to be disorienting. But our planet is in convulsions, and I'm surprised that I am not more convulsed in a way when you think about what's happening and how massive shifts are taking place all around us. I was talking to the guy who's distributing my book, and he basically had to go do one of these. Everything's up in the air. Every system that we thought we could count on, every way of contact, every reach into the schools, it's all blown up, and we don't know where all the pieces are going to land. We've never seen anything like this. He said, you know, you and I simply could not wrap our minds around the thought that, you know, in March when they said, you know, stay home, bend the curve for a couple of weeks, you know, just stay home. We don't want the hospitals to be overwhelmed, that it would have taken on such gargantuan proportions and such a psyop and such a global control vehicle based on propaganda, hoax, a little bit of information and a lot of control, a little bit of truth and a lot of stretching. And he said, you and I could simply have not ever wrapped our minds around the idea that there wouldn't be some sense of normalcy, even going into, you know, I was like, we'll be done with this thing by Easter. I mean, even President Trump said, you know, I'd like to see everything open up by Easter. And he doesn't say things he doesn't mean. So I was kind of surprised it didn't happen in that way. But I'm thinking that it probably could have. No problem. But because of the need to control and the need to traumatize and the need to get a hold of people's brains, you know, this thing carries on far beyond any rational analysis would have expected. And so we find ourselves in a place literally where the globe is convulsing in change. Isn't that an interesting place to be? So do we want to be, by the way, you want to see his little cute little face? There he is. That's Jean-Marc. That's my son. And he says he feels like he's a symphony orchestra trapped in a kazoo. So many ideas, so little outflow. But folks, how about as we consider what's happening, we consider our approach to fear-free living right now as the centrality of being the people that are the birthers, the people giving birth, the people with the new ideas, the new expectations, who are ready to welcome the next paradigm, who are ready to welcome Tikkun Olam, which is this concept of repairing the earth. Are we ready to welcome in the new ideas, the new businesses, the new alliances and relationships, conversations, and the new ways to communicate? You know, the old, well, if God shuts a door, he always opens a window. If Twitter explodes your account, what kind of creativity has to happen? What kind of intensity has to happen? How far are we willing to go to build threads and conversations and to get the word out? And right now, I think this is probably going to wind up becoming one of the most innovative times in the entire history of mankind. Peoplehood. I feel like this is the first time that I'm aware of, other than the flood, which was a global flood, I believe. And you can see in topography and geology the effects of a lot of sediment moving in a very fast way and depositing in Cataclysm. You really don't see in geology uniformitarianism, just a little bit of change over a long period of time. You see cataclysm in geology. This is my understanding, and I've seen enough evidence of it, and this is where we are, I believe. I'm trying to think. Can you guys think of any time, apart from Noah's flood, that the entire earth as a whole has been convulsed by change at once? Change that brought fear, that completely uprooted and destroyed things. But then, out of that birth, what happened? Noah and his family emerged from the ark as a fresh start, something new, something God breathed, something where he's carrying on and preserving the line and the purity of the line out of which Yeshua the Messiah himself has to come to save the world. And you think about where we are in this cataclysm, and it is a cataclysm. I can't think of any other time in history. You know, okay, so Princess Diana is shot heard around the world, right? Everyone, there's probably media covers that everywhere. So I'm trying to think of events that have shaken the whole world at once. Can you think of any? I'm having trouble thinking of things that had everybody stopping in their tracks. You know, something to do with assassinations of, you know, I'm sure that Kennedy's assassination, you know, the attempt against Ronald Reagan, but that would have shaken the world, but it would have had obviously more of an emotional and September 11th. Thank you very much. That is very good. Duh. I could have thought of that. September 11th definitely was. But if you think about it, people were looking at our trauma. They were looking at our trauma and saying, I hope those people with the big influential country can get it together so it doesn't, you know, affect us the same way, although many countries have lived with consistent terrorist issues, right, and crises. But if you want to look at what has scared the whole world, What has changed the habit patterns of most of the world? What has gotten people to agree to passively wear mouth burqas and to live in a state of fear and chaos? I can't think of another thing than perhaps Noah's flood. And you see in the pattern of the flood the overturning of what had to die. And what was happening at the time of Noah's flood? There was an evil unlike anything we can possibly imagine. And it was a form of invasion into humanity. It was a form of dehumanization of humans. It was an attempt, and you can get really into this, the Nephilim and all that stuff, but there was an attempt to completely dehumanize and to corrupt human bloodlines so that there could be no second Adam who qualified as the savior of the world. And you see how there was constant attempting to wipe out the bloodline of the Jews, to kill them, to get them to mix, to get them to interrelate so that there would be no pure, human, messianic, holy line of David to save the whole earth. And so much was at play at taking out the Jews. We can't let their existence and their narrative and their very reality and their humanity stay. We simply can't allow that. It's all full court press to destroy the womb out of which the Messiah comes. And there's a sense in which we are in that same thing. There has been a fresh womb in the earth, a new womb, a womb of change to take down the old guard and the old corruption of humanity on a level that we can't even wrap our minds around. Today I was on CloudHub for a few minutes and I saw the reporting on a series of billboards in an Italian town. And there's not a lot of posts on CloudHub, so you could probably find it. But someone who is very, very, very deeply involved and understands MK Ultra and creating pedophile and mind control pedophiles and sex slaves has done a children's book. And in that children's book, you see images, very, very creepy images of beautiful, innocent girl and all the things that are done to her and the things that she participates in. And the symbolism is shocking. The symbolism, and it's called cryptopedophilia. And there is a town in Italy where they have put these images up on billboards all over the town as art. Any of those of us in our current movement who know anything that we have learned cannot help but understand the gravity of what that means. As it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be, right? I think we're sort of in a days of Noah paradigm right now, where there is a complete and utter overturning, and there is a gravity and a depth of evil and a depth of dehumanization that is so deep that it's like we are on the verge of a Noah's flood to purge the nations. And the trauma of that purging and that overturning, I read a lot in Job 12 or 29 where it talks about the God recedes the water and things dry up, and then he sends the water, and then there's this massive overturning. And that's the season. We are in the season of the turning and the overturning globally. And it's because of the depth of the corruption, and even the process of the overturning has been so utterly corrupted. What has had to happen to all of us, the violation, don't you feel daily violated? Everything that you thought you knew about being an American and our free speech rights and our institutions. I feel daily as if I'm in an abusive relationship with someone who has decided to pull the rug out from under me. Oh no, you don't have free speech. That was just a joke. Oh no. Capitol Hill isn't the place of, the city set out a pill. That's the place where investigations go to die and things hide and the swamp creatures take over at night. Oh no, you're great institutions. You don't go to Washington, D.C. because that's Freemasonry, paganism, Illuminati, name it. Oh no. You don't want to go too high in Hollywood or business or sports or media or DC, because you go too high there, you're going to find out what they do to kids. I mean, just having all of this overturned and belched out is so heartrending. It's like I feel like I'm living in a place where somebody dared to put up the billboards of child crypto pedophilia everywhere and say, hey, this is our new normal. Welcome to it. And this is the level of what is happening on the planet, and I think it rivals what happened in the days of Noah. And so we are at this overturning, and we are at this cataclysm. And I'm surprised that you and I are doing as well as we have been. Aren't you thankful for our tribes? Aren't you thankful for our insider patriot intelligence agency that's been giving us information? Aren't you thankful for prophetic movements within the body of Christ? Aren't you thankful to be in a movement of people that are now going to give birth to the new paradigm? Don't you think that maybe one of Noah's daughters or granddaughters was pregnant on the ark? I feel like we're in an ark, friends. An ark in the midst of a massive storm. And we're all trusting. God said, get in the ark. I got a plan. There's a plan. Where we go one, we go all. We're on this ark. And we've prepared to the best of our ability. We went ahead and got the animals in and the foodstuffs, and we've played our part in something redemptive for the world, and now here we are in the midst of this massive storm. And in that season, I think there's a pregnancy in us. And so I just want to direct our attention and just be a little bit more metaphoric today and play you a little bit of music, because I think that the arts and business and technology, communication are the things that we're going to all be reinventing. And the creativity that is coming from us as old things die. I think we're in a paradigm of great death, the flood overturning. I believe the reason why we have our fossil record is because of the Great Flood. And you can see just in the layers has to do with what animals survived based on their abilities. Fish at the top, do you know what I mean? Swimming still, but you see the larger land creatures and the dinosaurs and so forth, in the lowest level of sediment, overturned and captured. They're captured in an instant and smothered, locked in by these massive waves of sediment, according to the Bible, really, the biblical paradigm. And you see that there's this overturning, right? And a lot of death, a lot of loss. And so we have behemoth structures that are getting pulled up and overthrown and overturned. Government structures, deep state structures in our mind, and also deep state church structures, old paradigms of how church functions. What is ecclesia? What is governing council? What is kingdom life? What is art? What is music? What is worship? What is connection? What is it all? It's the ultimate set of possibilities. I believe we're stepping into a season where the ark rests on Mount Ararat in our new paradigm, and we leave the ark. And it's our job to bring the new life, to bring the new things, the new communications, and to wake up in a world that's been nothing but upheaval, right? And it'll be very interesting, as a matter of fact, because the ark came to rest on Mount Ararat on Nisan 17, which is the exact same day of the resurrection in the Jewish calendar. So won't it be interesting? Let's just think ahead about how God is always doing things around the feasts and festivals and so forth. Won't it be interesting to see, we've just gone through Feast of Trumpets, also known as Rosh Hashanah, and we've gone through Yom Kippur and Sukkot, and then they start the returning of the Torah scroll, the reading of the Torah scroll from the beginning. Isn't that interesting? The beginning. They're reading now in Genesis about the beginnings of the earth, And they're probably reading about the flood narrative right about now. If you think about the Torah readings broken up and how the Torah is read through weekly, or they have just read about Noah's flood and the grave evil on the earth. It was so evil that God repented. He changed his mind and thought, I'm not sure I want to do this. I can hardly wrap my mind around it. It must have been on a scale we can't even imagine. And I think it had something to do with transhumanism. Just like we have issues with transhumanism now. People who will do anything to live forever with any kind of technology or any kind of drug that they can harvest from the most tender and precious among us. This is the season we're living in. This is the Noah's flood. This is the upheaval. But we are going to land on Mount Ararat. And won't it be interesting, my friends, to find out, you know how when the rains stopped, Noah and the family they were in the ark for quite a while afterwards. Why do you think they were in the ark for so long? Because the earth had to settle. It had to drain. It had to dry, right? And they had to, the vegetation had to grow up again. What were they? They did have provisions on the ark. I'm going to suggest that maybe in the prophetic timeline of where we are, that we might be around November 1st, 2nd, 3rd, having a landing on Mount Ararat, but not able to leave the ark yet. Because there's still so much upheaval from the overturning and the flood. And God accomplishes his purposes and cleanses and removes corruption, but then there is so much that has to settle. Wouldn't it be interesting if our timeline sort of takes us, into the spring? I don't know exactly how it works out. This is all sort of a story I'm telling you today. Wouldn't it be interesting to see when the ark kind of lands, when we all sense like, wow, I think it might, November 3rd, right around there, or as that settles on and we go, okay, the rains have ceased, but we can't leave the ark yet. There's two, in terms of the metaphor, because obviously day to day we're going to go out and do the kingdom thing. But I wonder about what's going to happen on Nisan 17. Or maybe according to the ark actually landing on Nisan 17, which is in the spring, maybe we'll have a sense of something really landing in early spring, like we're going to be in upheaval through this time. In any event, because I got my dates mixed up there, but in any event, because I so want to land now, maybe I just want to get off the ark right now. Maybe I just, it's like a long car ride with your kids. Are we there yet? Something's going to definitely happen on November 3rd in the spirit. But there's a sense in which we're going to land, things are going to have to settle, and then we're going to step out into a new paradigm. And we're pregnant with things we're bringing into that paradigm. We're pregnant with things that are new, that need new ways of connecting and meeting. We're going to have to replace corrupt media structures. We're going to have to replace corrupt storytellers. We're going to have to replace corrupt school systems and things, here I am spinning out this timeline thing, but what do we know? It's if after November 3rd, then actually justice, indictments, exposures, right? Denial coming off of people, this is just to settle who's the boss in charge this election, but then all the fallout of dealing with this corruption's coming. So I don't know about my arc timeline. I don't know. Right? Maybe it is a good resting time on in the spring. But however it plays out, we are on this ark pregnant with something new for our generation. And we're going to step into a new paradigm with a new world after so much upheaval. And I believe God is going to allow us to be the fresh seed, the fresh ideas, the fresh stories, right? The fresh bearers of hope and life. And that was kind of a long way, a lot of chatting to share with you the idea of why I decided this week, also because it's the week of my son's album release, that I decided to share with you this music today in context of the fear-free life. Because when you're busy bringing forth what is new, what is in you, what you have to offer, um, there's something beautiful about that that keeps you focused outward and outside of yourself. I can imagine. Have you guys been to the Ark reproduction in outside of Cincinnati? It's really really cool. And what was the most coolest thing about the Ark thing to me was seeing ancient technology and ancient shipbuilding technology that it makes total sense that was in use by the Phoenicians and so forth, that would have been available to Noah, and how that would have worked. And also the technologies that a very brilliant uh, man like Noah would have known, because you remember the age and lifespans of people were much longer. So there was a transfer of knowledge and brilliance, and they weren't that many generations away from Adam and Eve and the brilliance of direct connection with God. So early technology would have been way more advanced than we can even imagine. And one of the things they show on the Ark is that the technologies they could have used for removing waste from the animals, for airflow, for a storage of food, for communication, for how they built the cages, and how they got fresh water into the Ark, and how they could have gathered the rainwater and caused it to flow throughout the Ark to water the animals. Have you ever thought about how they watered all those animals? Have you ever thought about how they got ventilation? Have you ever thought about how they removed feces? Have you ever thought about how they cooked? Have you ever thought about what they would have done with their time? Have you ever thought about how they would have lit the inside of the Ark, and what kinds of arts and crafts they might have done, and how they might have gathered, and how they were in there for a year, better part of a year, if memory serves me. And so one of the coolest things about the Ark Encounter is that they really take the time to think about what was possible for ancient man, intelligent ancient man, to have devised based on the technologies that they knew were possible, and also what history indicates about civilization. It's fascinating. Those people in the Ark were very busy. They were very busy managing those animals, feeding those animals, and also taking care of themselves. They had one display where it showed weaving in one area, and how they might have preserved their stories or their scrolls or whatever, just their musical instruments. What were they doing on that Ark? Were they just sitting there just like biting their nails? No, there was so much productivity and so much planning. They had to anticipate, when we get out, how are we going to feed ourselves? What resources will we need for? They probably thought, well, the earth's going to be wet for a long time. How do we grow anything? They had to take seed on the Ark, didn't they? Right? They had to take seed on the Ark. They had to have enough grain for eating and enough seed for sowing. They had to think about, how are we going to feed the animals after we get off the Ark? How are we going to do that? They had to assume that God's plan for them was good, and that He didn't want them to die and starve on an ocean of water. Otherwise, why would He have saved them? And this is where we are. Why would God have preserved a remnant, an ecclesia, a pregnant people, if He didn't plan on a post-apocalyptic expression of a victory? Why would He have brought our president this far only to let him fail in the second term? Why would He have started and prophesied about the children, and about justice, and about mercy, and about cleansing, and about worldwide harvest, if He didn't intend to bring it? So we're on this Ark, and I want us to think about what's possible for us in the midst of what we don't know, we don't understand, and all this overturning, and what God has provisioned us with here in the Ark, in the season of the Ark, in the season of the overturning, of the worldwide cataclysm that we have experienced. What has He given us in the Ark that is our responsibility to shepherd? What technologies, What stories, what ideas, what relationships, what businesses, what media, what communications, what animal husbandries, what nature things, what are we bringing? What repair are we bringing to this earth when we land? And then when it's the right time to come out of the place God has kept us. We're pregnant. We're busy, we're engaged, we're creating new life, new ideas. That's where we are. And sometimes in the midst of a lot, I mean, they could have either just bit their nails for a year inside of an ark and gone crazy, but they had to have a lot of covering. You know, they couldn't just have it open to the sky with skylights because of the rain. So they had to have light and ideas and sharing and community and food and family and medical care for one another. These kinds of things. They were very, very creative and involved in being able to bring something, take care of one another, and to bring something to the earth. This is where I believe we are. This is what we're doing. And so I'm sharing with you, and I'm going to play it one more time at the end. I'm going to share with you this song, which is an ark piece, something that's been created in the ark for a new season, new worship thoughts, new worship ideas, new sounds for a new generation. You even see the watery image of this thing, and you can get it if you go to Jean-Marc Ledoux, right, .com. You can see his little name there, and get this. It's called Meditations. I'm going to play it for you again, and I want you to enjoy it and imagine and believe for the things that God is going to have you bring forth in this new season. There's something we're doing, we're preparing for. It's not just about getting through it. It's about what we're going to loose on the earth on the other end of this crazy thing we've been through. So here we go. This is Jean-Marc's piece called Figures. Let's see. Let's see if I can get it to play again. Where are you, Jean-Marc? I think I have to bring it to the top. This is my new, I might just get fancy schmancy with this. I don't know if I can. Oh, let's try that. Huh. Come on, figures. There it is. Enjoy this. Do something that scares you while you're in the ark, and I'll see you tomorrow. Enjoy the music. I will see you guys tomorrow. Oh, no, Monday.